Study of Language Chapter 8, Syntax. So first of all we shall see how we can define the syntax. Syntax are the analysis of the structure and ordering of components within a sentence. In Chapter 7, we moved from the general categories of traditional grammar to more specific methods of describing the structure of phrases and sentences, but when we concentrate on the structure and ordering of components within a sentence, we are studying the syntax of a language. The word syntax comes originally from Greek and literally means a putting together or arrangement. In earlier approaches, there was an attempt to produce an accurate description of the sequence or ordering arrangement of elements in the linear structure of the sentence. In more recent attempts to analyze structure, there has been a greater focus on the underlying rule system that we use to produce or generate sentences. Syntactic rules. Our analysis must account for all the grammatically correct phrases and sentences for a given language. We put a preposition, near, before a noun, London, to form prepositional phrase, near London, because a noun phrase can consist of a proper noun like London, a pronoun such as me, or the combination of an article like a, or the with a noun such as tree, dog. Therefore we can produce well-formed structures such as near London, with me, near a tree, with the dog. Next we have a generative grammar. Generative grammar is a set of rules defining the possible sentences in a language. Yule says that an effective grammatical rule can be used to generate unlimited numbers of English phrases. Surface structure and deep structure. Superficial synthetic forms of a sentence can be described as the surface structure of that sentence. For example, Charlie broke the window, and the window was broken by Charlie. They are two different superficial structures with sentences that have some underlying similarity or deep structure. In traditional grammar, the first sentence is called an active sentence, focusing on what Charlie did, and the second is a passive sentence, focusing on the window and what happened to it. The deep structure is an abstract level of structural organization in which all the elements determining structural interpretation are represented. That same deep structure can be the source of many other surface structures, such as it was Charlie who broke the window and was the window broken by Charlie. In short, the grammar must be capable of showing how a single underlying abstract representation can become different surface structures. Sentences ambiguity. Sentences ambiguity is a situation in which a single phrase or sentence has two or more different underlying structures and interpretations. Let's say we have two distinct deep structures. One says Annie had an umbrella and she bumped into a man with it. The other says Annie bumped into a man and the man happened to be carrying an umbrella. It has two distinct underlying interpretations that have to be represented differently in deep structure. Note that this is not the type of ambiguity that we experience in hearing their child has grown another foot, which illustrates lexical ambiguity mainly because the word foot has more than one meaning. Syntactic analysis. In syntactic analysis, we use some conventional abbreviations for the parts of speech identified in Chapter 7. Examples are N for nouns, ART for articles, ADJ for adjective and V for verb. We also use abbreviations for phrases, such as NP for noun phrase and VP for verb phrase. We represent the concept consists of with an arrow, also interpreted as rewrites as. The following rule states that a noun phrase NP such as the dog consists of or rewrites as gives an article, the and a noun, dog. This simple formula is the underlying structure of millions of different English phrases. However, it is not the only form a noun phrase can take. We want to include another constituent, h, in the rule so that it is good for not only phrases like the dog, but also the big dog. This constituent is optional in a noun phrase, so we use round brackets to indicate that aj is an optional constituent, as shown here. Another common symbol is in the form of curly brackets. These indicate that only one of the elements enclosed within the curly brackets must be selected. A noun phrase can also contain a pronoun or a proper noun. Using the abbreviations PRO for pronoun and PN for proper noun, we can write 3 separate rules, as shown on the left, but it is more shortcut to write one rule, on the right, using curly brackets. Next we have phrase structure rules. Rules stating that the structure of a phrase of a specific type consists of one or more constituents in a particular order are called phrase structure rules. The first rule in the following set of simple and necessarily incomplete phrase structure rules captures a very general rule of English sentence structure. A sentence S rewrites as a noun phrase NP and a verb phrase VP. The second rule states that a noun phrase rewrites as either an article plus an optional adjective plus a noun, or a pronoun or a proper noun. In the third rule, a verb phrase rewrites as a verb plus a noun phrase. Next, lexical rules. Rules stating which words can be used for constituents generated by phrase structure. Rules are known as the lexical rules. The first rule in the following set states that a proper noun rewrites as John or Mary. It is a very small world. We can rely on these rules to generate grammatical sentences such as, dog followed the bow, John saw the big dog, and it followed Mary, and followed Mary the dog big. But we can't rely on these rules to generate ungrammatical sentences like, dog followed bow, John Mary small dog, and Mary John helped. Let's move on to the next topic, tree diagram. Tree diagram is a diagram with branches showing the hierarchical organization of sentence structures. We use the symbols introduced earlier to label parts of the tree when we create a representation of how each part fits into the underlying structure of phrases. The information in a phrase structure rule, on the left, can be expressed in a tree diagram, on the right. We read it as a noun phrase consists of an article and a noun, and we represent this in the tree diagram, as shown in this picture. It functions to represent all the grammatical information found in the other analysis on the left. It also shows very explicitly that there are different levels in the analysis. That is, there is a level of analysis at which a constituent such as NP or noun phrase is represented, and a different, lower level at which a constituent such as an is represented. We can use a similar tree diagram to represent the more complex structure of an English verb phrase as VP, as shown in figure, which represents the hierarchical nature of underlying structure. In this hierarchy, the verb phrase VP is higher than and contains the verb V, and a noun phrase NP. The noun phrase NP is higher than and contains the article art and the noun un. Now, we shall see how to construct the tree diagrams of English sentences. We can now put together tree diagrams for whole sentences, hierarchically organized, as shown in figure. Notice that essentially the same basic tree diagram structure is the foundation for all the different sentences, with variable constituents included in each one. The sentence "the small bow helped you" contains a noun phrase "the small bow" and a verb phrase "helped you." Noun phrase further consists of an article "the" and an adjective "small" and a noun "bow." And the verb phrase contains a verb and a noun phrase "you," also represented as pronoun. We have some other tree diagrams of the English sentences at the bottom of all the trees in figure 8. For our surface structure variations of a single underlying deep structure, revealing the generative power of the phrase structure rules involved. That's all what chapter number 8 contains. See you all again in the next video. Goodbye.